It's hard to believe I'm saying this out loud, but I've been in various HR leadership roles for more than a decade now. um, Focusing on mostly talent acquisition and building strong, diverse teams as companies grow. But my work really centers around providing an environment where companies and employees can do their best work and scale. And so most of my experience has really been in talent acquisition, global talent acquisition strategy, managing different cultures and cultural expectations. And then I've also dabbled a little bit on the people ops practice side of like management trainings, and it's all intertwined, right? So end-to-end HR. I've worked through 5 different startups. So some people say I'm a glutton for punishment. In my career, ranging anywhere from 45 employees all the way to more than 800. I think a lot of companies are and employees are actually really focused on, if I invest my time in this organization, what am I going to get out of it? So I'm going to call it something like talent sustainability, right? Like, what kind of programs is a company going to offer me access to develop my career? And I think this has been exacerbated a lot because we're either in a completely remote environment, a hybrid environment, or as many companies are pivoting back to in-office. How are they going to focus on developing a wide swath of people? Based on not just what their management is looking at their output or their performance. How are they going to create the mentorship programs that people often need? How are they going to create leadership opportunities? How are they going to have visibility across the entire company when you are working through completely remote, hybrid, and in-person employees? And so when I talk about talent sustainability, I'm thinking about not just attracting the talent, but also managing the managing the resignations, but also like, how do you create a long-term thriving environment for an employee? That will become, I think, the key and the competitive advantage in a recruitment cycle, because it's been neglected for so many years, especially with COVID. Outside of just reviewing a resume and checking off all the, do they have what it takes, check boxes, right? Like, have they performed in the role? Do they have the right level and title and experience? I cannot emphasize the importance of cultural fit. And I look at cultural fit through a couple of different lenses, not just company cultural fit and alignment to the values, but also team culture fit and management culture fit, because those 3 things can be very, very different. And if someone comes into an organization and you're not vetting for all 3 of those kind of lenses, that person won't necessarily thrive or be set up for success, because they will be seen as not the right fit through whatever definition that is. So when I talk about culture fit, again, it's not just company values and, do they want to come in and eat pizza on a Tuesday? It's, do they want to run through walls? Are they ready for a startup environment, or are they just looking for a 9 to 5? Are they willing to take that call on a Sunday night, the day before a board meeting, when they know that their, VP is probably looking for some analytics? Every company and every team and every manager has a different definition of what culture really is. And so by infusing a lot of that into the interview process and understanding what does that mean to that candidate, I think is super important. And that's where I've seen a lot of things go wrong. Another thing, just like programmatically, is a lot of startups neglect their own employer brand, which I think is super important, and forgetting we all have a bias when we work inside the company. We all chose that organization, but not everyone else knows about us, nor why we joined that organization. And so investing in employer brand, making sure that everyone has the right pitch, making sure that all employees know that recruiting is part of their responsibility to scale the organization. And so therefore they should be tied to the recruiting brand, is also incredibly important. Because part of the reason why the swarm is so successful is, you're not just getting referrals from the recruiting team or from the management team or from the hiring manager who has an opening. It's from literally every single person within your organization and every single rung out thereafter. It's your board members, it's your VCs, it's your talent partners, it's everyone, it's even former candidates. And so by giving them a great experience, exposing them to a great employer brand, they're always going to be top of mind in terms of referring folks over to the organization. A place where a lot of folks make mistakes, whether it's at the company level, the leadership level, the hiring manager level, is when someone thinks that recruiting starts the moment you get an open headcount, and that's not true. Recruiting is constant. You hear people say this all the time, always be recruiting. Whether it's every great leader is always recruiting. So it's whether it's at industry events or in the line at Starbucks or back in the day when I used to share Ubers with random people, I would make conversations with them, try and get a better understanding of who they are, what motivates them, so on and so forth, because you genuinely never know where your next hire is going to come from or your next referral. And so you're always constantly recruiting. And so we have to remember that oftentimes referrals are often the most efficient hires in your candidate process. They are probably already culturally aligned because a referring employee is not going to submit, someone who could potentially fail because that's tied to their own reputation. They have a built-in buddy if they're successfully hired. They already have a social connection into the organization. And the referring employee has also probably seen them do really great things already in previous lives. And so when we're thinking about network-driven recruiting, we need to talk about why is this important and instill that into the culture. And when we talk about how network-driven recruiting can change recruiting overall, it makes everything more efficient and allows us to scale an organization much faster. VCs are not immune to, being asked to do more with less also. So they're constantly thinking about what are the talent solutions that are available? What are we investing in? Why did we invest in them? And so by asking your VC partners about, the latest and greatest in investments that they've been making, you have access now immediately to discounts. And also to founders, to product roadmaps, to the analysts who actually did the research as to why they made that investment. So that's one piece, but also from a talent acquisition perspective, they have lists of really great coaches, mentors, things like that. And so they can be a resource from a referral perspective as well. They know when some key talent are potentially leaving because of either a merger and acquisition, or maybe they're burnt out or they're taking a break. And they can set you up with a warm intro because oftentimes warm intros are the ones that can also take the longest in terms of a recruiting cycle. And I know that feels a little weird because I just said sometimes they're fast-tracked, but you could be recruiting someone for 6+ months and, through the lens of coffees and product chats and picking their brain or getting market reads and things like that. That's all recruiting. Keeping a pulse on who that person is and their awareness in the market, and also you staying on top of their radar as well, is all part of recruiting. So that when they are ready to pick their head back up and go into the market and look for their next adventure, they think to call you first. In terms of, just VCs and their talent strategies in general, I think, they're encouraging investments in talent platforms to streamline recruitment processes because everyone is looking at operational expenses right now. And so if there are things that we can do where we're investing in technology versus investing in manual processes, they will encourage those things as well. The way that I view professional organizations is be very selfish with your time, because we're all stuck in a wall of Zoom meetings every single day. And, sitting there and having to attend or dreading attending a 2 hour like professional organization meeting, it's not fun, right? So when you are not getting value out of it, if you can't learn from the group, if you can't teach or mentor, if you're not solving similar problems, it's probably time to exit that group. Every single professional organization typically will have a season for your life, right? Also depending on your own personal growth. And so, um, you know, are you in similar levels of the people in the group? Do they have similar challenges or opportunities that you're solving together? And so, sometimes joining a group 3 years ago doesn't make any sense today. Or sometimes you'll want to even more specialize in a different group, whether it's, for example, I just moved to San Diego. So will I gain more value in walking away from a national group and instead investing my time with a San Diego based group? And so these are the questions that you have to ask yourself, but your time is your most valuable asset that you have, not only for yourself, but also the organization. And so if you're just like waking up every single morning and dreading that 2 hour meeting that's on your calendar because you're not getting any value out of it, you should probably start thinking about joining a different one. That being said, some of the professional organizations I've joined, even after I walked away, have been the most valuable relationships I've ever had. And so there is always value in creating those networks and investing in those relationships, whether it's all the people in your network or just a few curated folks that you have like similar interests with.